Welcome to the Roller Coasters of Life. Today we're going to discuss music and anxiety. If you've spent much time around me, you'll know that I'm a huge music fan. Even to the point of if you watch my social media, like you'll see that I'm either posting on musicians' pages, sharing music, sharing lyrics, talking about music. Excuse me. And so one of the roller coasters for me is like I always get this happiness when music is released. And Friday, a band called Wolves at the Gates released a new single. Shout out to Wolves at the Gate. They're one of my favorite bands, and there's a story that goes along with it. I actually have their symbol tattooed on my arm. So, the story that goes with them is that I had just came back to the Lord and was in a season of not knowing really, it's one of those seasons when you first start walking with the Lord of like, does he really love me? Like, how do I know that he loves me? And like, kind of processing those thoughts. And I remember going to see them, I think it was in Kokomo at a bar. August Burns Red was headlining and Wolves at the Gates was opening, and there's another band that I really love, and I'm blanking on their name. That's pretty terrible. I really enjoyed the show, so much so that like I knew like that was the next tattoo I was getting. So I went and got it tattooed. But there's a song on their album, I don't know what you call it. It's either 5x5 or V by V, whatever you want to call it. There's a song on there called The Father's Bargain that really talks about the Father just coming for us, even in the midst of our sin and our darkness and our shame. And so, like, it clicked. It was very, not symbolic. Like, it literally was almost like, oh, wow, like, that's it. Like, he really does love me. And so, I really love Wolves at the Gates. They have a new album coming out in May. The first track off this new album is insane. I actually love it. And so, yeah, so that's my music portion. I love music, and every time somebody releases new music, it's great. Wolves at the Gates, like I said, are one of my all-time favorites. So much so, even music plays a role into a portion of my life for anxiety. I struggle with anxiety most of my life. I'm sure that some of you would know that. I usually just don't talk or get around people when I'm just silent, or whatever the case may be. That's not necessarily the social part of it, the social anxiety part of it, but that's more of like just being quiet and not knowing when to talk, or making sure that I'm processing what I'm saying and saying the right thing, right? Like, oftentimes words come out of our mouth and we regret what we've said. And so I just try to make sure that I'm watching what I'm saying and how I'm saying it. But there's a story that goes with my anxiety journey. So most of my life I've struggled with anxiety. Anxiety has been a big issue for me. So much so that like I just ignored it for a few years, and then it kind of came to a head 3 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago. And I had some situations pop up that like basically just drove anxiety into me. Like, so much so that like I didn't want to go anywhere. I didn't want to be anywhere. I was so anxious and like couldn't talk or didn't want to talk really. My family like would get around me and I was just silent. I had let it just consume me to the point of like what felt like no return. And it was hard. It was hard because you don't want to be in those seasons. You don't want to do that roller coaster. And anxiety in itself is a roller coaster. It feels like oftentimes you're 1 minute you got a high, 1 minute all of a sudden you're down here, and it's like this. It's just constantly going like this. And so that's really what it felt like, and I hated it so much. I hated the anxiety that I dealt with often. I hated it so much because like it made me have an image of myself and the way I thought about myself and the way that I thought about people viewing me and the way that being around people, I always thought that people were watching me or people were trying to, be against me. And unfortunately, part of the anxiety was because in my younger years, I thought that the world was really against me, which getting older, nah, not really. I don't think that's it. The world's not really out to get you. You just live and learn, and then you move on. So there's that. But like in this season that I'm talking about, I was so stricken with anxiety that I couldn't move, and um, I didn't want to go anywhere. And one morning, well, our pastor, funny thing about to me about the Lord is that like in seasons, he will always have somebody speaking a word into your life, it feels like, and like you just have to pay attention and listen. And it's not necessarily, I don't necessarily feel like the person that's speaking that word is going to heal your season or bring depth to your season, or not always is the word going to be freeing. It's just there to encourage you or help you out, or help you get through that season. So in this season, actually, our pastor was preaching on anxiety through Philippians, and I'm not sure that maybe it was titled anxiety. I don't remember. It was 2 years ago. So my wife and I decided that we were going to make sure that we hit every service, and we were going to make sure that we weren't gonna go to Cedar Point. We weren't going to do anything on Sundays. We were going to make sure that we were there every single Sunday, and we did. We actually rearranged our schedules and made sure that I was there and she was there and our kids were there, because lo and behold, funny thing is like if you deal with anxiety, most likely sometimes your kids are going to deal with anxiety too. And anxiety is kind of a part of life as well. I'm talking more so like the heightened anxiety, the harsher anxiety. Everybody's always going to have a little bit of anxiety, especially when you're making decisions or, decisions or whatever the case may be. But you push through that. This type of anxiety I'm talking about, I couldn't push through. Like I couldn't make the decisions. I couldn't go do the things. I couldn't do that. So we get to the last morning service of this message series. And at this point, I'm having a full-blown anxiety attack. Like I'm going to church, like I was silent all the way to church. I was sitting in church, and I remember people coming up and talking to me, and I'm just like, I don't want to be here. Like, I can't do this. And so I just pushed through. It was one of those things of like, I knew if I pushed through, something was going to happen. And oftentimes I feel that, like, sometimes, oh, well, I got to push through this because, like, this is it. Like, there's something's going to happen, something's going to be good. Well, lo and behold, we got into worship, and I really felt the Lord, tugging on my heart, kind of nudging me, and like, this is the day. This is the day. And I'm like, all right, Lord, I'll trust you. Like, let this be the day. Let it be. And there's moments in my life where I'm like, oh yeah, I think I heard the Lord. And then I'm like, later on, I'm like, maybe it wasn't. But this morning it was like, yeah, I know. So we're going through worship, and like everything that Pastor Scott's saying, like, it's just hitting me deep. And I'm like, oh man, like this is it. Like, here it is. And like, there was like 4 times I think I almost cried during the service. And so at the end, he does kind of this altar call of like, step out in the aisles, and if you struggle with anxiety and want prayer. I think that's how it went. I don't know. It's something like that. It was basically an altar call to step out in the aisles, and people were going to pray for you. And so that morning, people prayed for me, and everybody laid their hands on me, and I literally felt the anxiety lift off my shoulders. I think what's crazy is like, don't hear me in saying that I had this big flash of light and like this, my body was all warm and everything like that. It wasn't that. I just literally felt the peace of the Lord drench me, and like, I felt the anxiety lift off. I was instantly out of the panic attack I was in, the anxiety attack, and I literally felt it remove off my shoulders, which is crazy in itself. So I want to encourage you this afternoon, this morning, whatever it is, whenever you're watching this, that, there's freedom. And sometimes, I'm not going to sit here and say like you go to church, you're going to get freed. It's a good possibility, but I also spent a lot of my time that I dealt with my anxiety, praying to the Lord and asking and just trying my hardest to seek the Lord when I was in those moments. And so there was an out. My out was going to church. And now I understand that, not everybody gets healed of their anxiety. Not everybody is going to get healed of their anxiety. I don't know why I was chosen to get healed of my anxiety. But know that anxiety doesn't have to rule your life, that there's more out there for you, that you can push through. Some things seem scary, but those things are okay. Like, unless it's going to involve like death or you murdering somebody or endangering somebody or whatever the case may be, like push through. Like, it's fine. Like, there's so much more on the other side of anxiety. And for sure, like, you're worth it. Like, I know that like you can't control it, and that's okay. Like, I know that you can't control your anxiety sometimes, but there's more for you on the other side. And even if you don't like get on the other side of being free from anxiety, like there's still more for you if you push through. You can become better. And that's really what I wanted to say with this, is that you are so loved by the people around you that like maybe you could talk to them, or maybe you could, do whatever's needed and say, hey, I'm having a panic attack, like, or I'm having an anxiety attack. Can you talk to me? Can you be around me? Can you sit with me? Can you do something? Like, there's healing in a process of being around other humans. There's healing in the process of, being able to have a loved one sit with you or have a loved one talk to you. We were made to be around people. Literally, God made somebody to be with Adam, right? So like, there needs to be somebody around you just to help you through that season. So that's kind of what I got to say on this video. Look, if you struggle with anxiety, like, man, I'd love to pray for you. Leave a comment. Let me know that you want me to pray for you. If you're seeing this on my Facebook, leave a comment on my Facebook, and I'll definitely pray for you. I keep you in my prayers. Yeah. So, with that being said, shout out to Mindy Oden Art. These two paintings right here are Mindy Oden. This painting right here is one of my favorite paintings I've ever bought. You can't really see it because the video's got it blurred out a little bit, but it's a skull with kind of like air coming out of it and dandelions, flowers growing out of the skull, kind of just symbolizing Ezekiel when the Lord breathed life into his bones. And this is, so I worked with a ministry called Time to Revive, and we were in Texas, and she made this painting. I don't know why it spoke to me. It's just one of those paintings that like, it just caught my attention. So yeah, also shout out to Lego Fortnite. These are some bundles that my kids and I put together just because, that's what we do with our time. So yeah, that's the end of the video. If you could, subscribe, like, leave a comment. Let's talk, I'll comment back on the comments, or, whatever the case may be. So hope you have a good day.